Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast as always. And we are working through a Friday slate in the NBA here. More cup games, baby. So definitely keep in mind we got the NBA Cup action on for Friday. We're going to be going through best bets in this episode. Also have play a props up in the other episode, which we have for you guys each and every weekday moving forward. So make sure to subscribe to that page and continue to follow along. Nate, let's go ahead and jump right into your first best bet. Pretty good night on the night, I would say, right? A little 5-3, up a unit or so for the kids. So let's keep it rolling.
Yeah, pretty good night. Tough beat for you with the Pistons going to overtime there on the under.
Clean under.
That's how it goes. And also a blatantly missed travel for Goga Bitadze that led to an and one that led to the Magic somehow winning that game. But, I'm not bitter. Moving on.
We're good.
I do like this parlay a little simpler than because AD didn't get those rebounds anyway last night. So the parlay would not have hit. But keeping it simple in terms of Giannis, the 30 points, Bucks to win. The Pacers not playing well, and people have been keeping receipts from last year, I feel like, especially in the NBA Cup when Halliburton danced all over them, right? Especially this Bucks team knocked them out, and we saw 6 days later the Bucks got another crack at them and dropped 140 in a win. Giannis goes for 64 points on 20 for 28 and got 32 free throw attempts. They just can't deal with him. I mean, he's pretty undeal-withable right now. Especially in these division games, it seems like it's weird in the NBA to talk about division, but like the Pistons, the Bulls, the Pacers, it's just the Hawks. That's who he plays against, right? Those teams are just pretty soft on the interior, and especially with Aaron Nesmith out, this Pacers team has been killed by stars, whatever position. They've been killed by power forwards all year. Now they're missing Isaiah Jackson, who did a nice job kind of filling in their last game. That's going to be a problem. I mean, with Nesmith in there after that huge Giannis game, they held Giannis to 28 points per game, beat him twice in January. Another revenge angle there for them coming back. But like this Pacers team, man, I just don't know what is wrong. Like, what is wrong with Halliburton in particular? 98 offensive rating on the road. They're 30-20% splits, 11 points per game. Siak, and if he's not hitting and Nemhard's out, like they're not getting much going for the perimeter. And if you're counting on Siakam to score consistently against this drop D, like that hasn't gone well, except for the very one playoff game that he started with. Like, so I actually like the Bucks here, maybe on the spread, but like I'm fine with just taking the money line. Giannis has got to carry quite a load for them here, and they're in position to take control of this group, right? I mean, they're plus 14. They're behind the Pistons, still get to play the Pistons, though, in this group. So it is a big NBA Cup spot for them to try to pile up some points. And more importantly, it's a bigger get right spot that after they've won 4 or 5, right, to try to get their season on track.
Yeah, TBD how everybody outside of LeBron James is treating the NBA Cup. I know we know the Lakers care. I don't know how much everybody else cares, but I know that they care about playing the Pacers. And I got to agree entirely. And if you want to know what's wrong with Tyrese Halliburton, I don't have the answer, but I can tell you that it was the injury. I mean, when he came back from the injury, he just was not the same person. And it's the eye test and the stats test. He's not getting into the lane. He's not shooting nearly as much. I mean, when he was before he got hurt, he was at 25 a game. He was at 11 assists a game. He was shooting the ball 19 times. He was shooting 9 threes per game. Just not doing that anymore. He's at like 15 a game. Since that time, he's at 15 a game. He's averaging 7 threes and he's averaging 14 shots. It's just the usage isn't there. The pace isn't there for this team. Once they got Siakam too, the pace slowed down. And yeah, it's not a good matchup for Siakam, which I'm happy to fade him against a Bucks team where Giannis has been challenged to go back to his defensive self. That's been talked about in multiple broadcasts when you watch Bucks games right now, which is this team is challenging him to go back to being that good. They're now second best at limiting power forwards. I don't know where the points are going to come from. Maybe Benny Matz, but there's a lot of injuries, and Nesmith's impact on the defense was probably underrated by most non-nerds in the NBA. So let me go to the boys. Let me go to Golden State and take a fun team to talk about here. This is so much fun, man. Over 116.5 is the team total for them against whomever the Pelicans are just going to shovel out onto the court and hope that they can grow into some form of NBA player, essentially, right? Like they're just planting seeds with guys that we've barely heard of other than you and me, because it's our job to know them. It's pretty hard. So I love this total for them because they are playing so fast. They're playing so small, and they're just their defense is turning into offense, and this was the strength in numbers of the Dubs when they had strength in numbers with Barbosa and Livingston and all these guys, right? Festus Ezeli. So they're over this number in 11-14, and it's all because not because they have superstars draining threes and making shots. It's because they have a really good 10-man rotation that bludgeons you to death. They're 2 unders versus the Clippers. That is for sure their kryptonite. A team that's just also full of wings, and then a big that has dominated them since he got to the Clippers, which is Zubac. In fact, Zubac dominated them when he was on the Lakers as well. So that's a terrible matchup for them. And then they went under versus this Pelicans team in their first game without Steph. Or excuse me, the second game. The first game they throttled them without Steph by like one. It was like 130 to whatever. Second game was a much closer affair. Once the Pelicans got their stars back in, played with Ingram and stuff, whatever. It was a closer game in that sense, but the Dubs didn't have Steph. 5th in pace this season for the Dubs, and 5th in offensive rating, just as important as 4th in defensive rating. Because that defense turns into offense. Like I said, they are number 1 in points off of turnovers. That was a staple of the strength in numbers Warriors. The Pelicans 26th in turnover percentage on the season, 29th over their last 5, as Ingram and company have been in and out of the lineup, and a whole other, right? We know everybody else is hurt for this team. We've got Jordan Hawkins questionable coming back in this one. I believe BI is questionable. I don't really care. This is really about the Dubs just impacting this game and inflicting their will upon it, which is pace, space, defense, turn into offense, go on the fast break. 4th in fast break points. Pelicans dead effing last at limiting fast break points, and their transition efficiency in general is terrible. And that bench, I just love that we're seeing the bench come out and just do its thing the whole game. And what that's led to, what the bench being out there has led to, and by the way, the bench is awesome. They're number 1 in offensive rating. They're actually playing slower as the bench than the starters, but they're still playing at like 117 pace. It's a smaller sample size. But yeah, that offensive rating for the bench, them coming in, what that leads to is dominating the second half. In the first half, they're good. They have the 6th highest margin of victory. They're up by 3.7 on average at the half, but they only score 55 in that time frame. In the second half, in the third quarter specifically, number 1 in points, 5.4 plus 5.4 in the third quarter. This is a staple of the championship run Warriors, is come out and beat the crap out of you in the third because I didn't play my starters, 12, 15 minutes in the first half, right? We were a lot closer to them being a lot more fresh, essentially, for the end of the game. So love where this is at. I love the fact that they're playing a team that's going to be bad for sure, but they're playing so many sort of backups, right? That like, it's not like you just have one group of guys that gets tired and takes things for granted. The backups are still playing for minutes, right? It's kind of like when we talk about stars out, bets up. Well, yeah, like they're still getting their stars out and their subs in for most of these games, and they're going to be coming with it into the fourth quarter and still trying to score towards the end of the game in this NBA Cup.
Yeah, that's the key, right? I mean, the Warriors leading their group here. They need to score as many points as possible. I mean, the Pelicans have been like free money betting against them, and that's like why we took the Cavs on a back-to-back to score a bunch. Like they didn't play Garland. They only didn't need Donnie Mitchell to play, and Ty Jerome roasts this team. So like anybody can score on this team that has pulled the plug or is just like waiting to get their guys back. I mean, Ingram might not even go, right? So they might not have anybody once again. So yeah, I've been trying to fade them. I mean, I took Warriors -8 last night. That's kind of gone. It's rising in the double digits. So I'm going to add the Warriors alt line, which I did down to -5.5, and parlayed it with the Bucks. And I'm going to parlay it with the Kings here as the second best bet. I like the Kings money line. I mean, it's -130 in some spots. If you just do Kings and Warriors money line, you're at even money. But like Kings, great spot right here. If you're just like a schedule better, this is what you look for. They're on 3 days rest. LA playing their 5th game in 7 nights. Last game of the home stretch of the homestand, and then they hit the road. And their next game is at Philly Sunday. So James Harden is looking ahead here. And they don't have Norman Powell, which you were worried about on Wednesday against the Magic. I was worried about it too, but they got it done with defense. I don't think they're going to be able to shut down the Kings to that degree. Not with Sabonis and DeRozan both coming back here on extra rest, right? Yeah. I mean, the Kings, this is their spot. They're 64% with the rest advantage straight up, or after a loss, or as a road favorite since last season. They're no longer the team that you fade on the road. They've been extremely consistent, actually, home or away in the last 2 years. And part of that is Sabonis, right? Being an Iron Man, controlling the interior. Like their defense they're actually third in paint points. I was shocked to see that. Like Sabonis gets some slack for his rim protection, but like they're
Yeah.
packing it in. They're daring opponents to shoot threes. And if you don't have Norm Powell, who by the way dropped 31, is the reason that the Clippers beat the Kings earlier this season. He dropped 31. The Kings shot 3 for 26 from 3, just a total outlier game. They don't even need to get an outlier the other way. They beat the Clippers twice last season. One of them, they only shot 28% from 3. They did it with defense. They did it with Sabonis outplaying Zubac. He was plus 12 in his last 3 now against Zoo. And if they dare the Clippers to shoot threes, like I'm not scared by the fact that they hit 11 of 22 against Orlando. Like that's a 1-game sample. Without Norman Powell, there's just not enough to threaten me on the perimeter from this Clippers offense that I think the Kings can get the dub here.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this. I went to put the Kings in here as well. I love this spot for them against an undermanned Clippers squad and them getting all their guys back. It's like a perfect moment in time. Don't care about the road stuff either. I think they're a perfectly fine road team this year and will continue to be. DDR has always been a good road player. So, I've loved this one. I would have taken it if you hadn't already put it into the show. But let me close it out with a potentially starless game. I don't know. Is Luka going to – I mean, Luka's not playing in this Dallas-Denver game. Jokic might, and that's really, I mean, he's a freaking moon, right? He's a sun that this whole thing revolves around. So got to know if he's playing. But if he doesn't,
and Kyrie is a ray of light. What did he call himself? Like you're calling Kyrie not a star. He said, "I'm a beacon. I'm a beacon of light." Is what he called himself. So how dare you?
Oh my God, my bad, Kyrie to God. That is my bad. I didn't forget about you, and you're still a superstar. But there's a couple better ones that aren't going to be out there, maybe. So if Jokic is out. That's really what this comes down to for me more than anything, because we know Luka's out and Dallas, like you can say, yeah, Russ Westbrook comes in and has an impact on the pace, but he's still getting the same amount of minutes in the last couple games. They did come back and score 122 after getting beat by Memphis pretty good in the first game. They came back and beat them in the second game by scoring a buck 22. That was also on some really, really good shooting, by the way, from MPJ and Christian Brown and Julian Strawther. Not saying it can't happen against Dallas, but Dallas is a very good defensive team and has been underrated on defense since Jay Kidd got there, to be honest. Former punching bag, now championship attending coach, Jason Kidd. So if you look at the with and without numbers, that's really what this comes down to for me. And this has been bet down, by the way. 230.5 was the open. It's at 225.5 now. I still think this is like on the cusp of the last number that you can take to go under for this game. Last year with Luka, it's just, I mean, obviously it's a decent enough sample size though. 10 games without him, 72 with him. In the games with him, a buck 20 with an 120 O rating. Without him, 107 with 108 offensive rating, right? 48%, almost 49 from the field with him versus 44. 37% from 3, making 2.5 more with him than without. 33% 3-point without him. So that's a part of it. Joker, it's the same concept. In the last 2 seasons, he's only missed 6 games because he's a freaking ox. But in those 6 games that he missed, everything drops down. 115.7 points per game with him, and 120 offensive rating with him. Without him, goes down to 107 and 106 points per game. So like if you take those totals and put them together, we're basically sitting at about 217 for these teams, like 215 essentially. And so there's just not much margin for error for guys to miss threes. The pace, if it goes up, all right, then that would be my downfall for sure. Like Denver has played a little bit faster in the last couple games, even against a team like the Grizzlies, who do play a little bit choppier, but they're actually playing faster this year. Are the Grizzlies? They're thought of as grind city, but even without Ja, they've been playing in a top 10 pace this season, and still looking to get out into fast break and play that sort of turn the defense into offense with turnovers style of play. And that's been what they've been banking on. And they didn't have their best player in Ja in that game, and there you go. They're just they're fumbled the bag for sure. But I think for Dallas, like their defense is going to go wherever it needs to, with or without Luka, and it's only going to get better without him, to be honest, which it did. So I'm going to go ahead and same with Denver with Jokic in there. They're worse on offense, or excuse me, on defense, and much better on defense actually without him over the course of the last couple seasons. So I'm just going to bank on the under. This is about where I would play it though. I wouldn't go much lower than 225.5.
Yeah, no, I agree that Dallas defense is what I'm going to hang my hat on here if I'm taking an under. So I might rather take the Nuggets team total under or take the Mavs on the spread and hope Jokic doesn't play. Although we're coming back to Denver, right? And he's home for the birth of his kid. So like I have a hard time thinking he won't just show up and do his thing. So I mean, you just got to kind of forecast that. But yeah, Dallas defense definitely an upgrade when you put guys like Quentin Grimes in there, take Luka out. I think they'll be pretty tough to score on in this one. Is with whether Russell Westbrook is the main option or not, which he just kind of took over the identity of his team with Jokic out. That then it could get real sloppy if he's forced to be the main option.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, being in Denver, it might even just be safe to just take Denver, knowing that Luka's not playing and knowing they might not need Nikola Jokic in order to win at home, where they've been so much better for forever now. But that's all the time we have for you in Best Bets. Continue to follow along. Go ahead and subscribe to that page so you don't miss any of the other videos, including Playa Props that we're bringing out to you. Also got NFL Coast to Coast Playa Props for this Sunday. So make sure you check out all of that on the YouTube channel. Until we see you next, happy betting.